This is a short video about the difference between 2D and 3D animation and how 2D animation has kind of gone away and 3D has taken over. How they are made and how long it takes to make them. Before we get into all that, let's look at the history of animation. The first forms of 2D animation were the zoetrope and the magic lantern. They are very similar to the animated GIFs that are made today. Let's take a look at Disney's Pixar's zoetrope.
How animation works is it's a trick. When you go to a movie, you're basically seeing 24 still images every second. It's like a flip book. As I flip through here, you can see that each drawing is a little different than the last one. And then as I flip through at speed, the illusion of movement is created.
Pixar really wanted to show the public how animation works, and one of the ideas to do this was to build something called a zoetrope.
Zoetropes go back to the 19th century. If you imagine a barrel with little slots and images, each a little different from the last, it's like a shutter, and it shows you a little glimpse of that drawing across the way, and they appear to move. Studio Ghibli has this amazing three-dimensional zoetrope. John Lasseter had seen the zoetrope there, and I think he said, "I've never seen an object that so well describes the basic premise of animation." When it was suggested that we do one for ourselves, it was a no-brainer. Instead of drawings, we're using sculptures. So what you're seeing are 18 different sculptures, each slightly different than the last one. And instead of flipping through them, we're using a strobe light to make those images stick in your eye. And these spinning images freeze in space, and each sculpture replaces the last one and appears to move. It's stunning because it looks like it's come to life right in front of you.
I think that the zoetrope is the clearest explanation of animation, because on the disc, you get to see every frame of animation before your current frame where you're looking, and every frame of animation after it. Here you have the opportunity to see the tricks the animator used to make things move.
It's a very simple mechanism, it's a very simple idea, but somehow seeing that come to life right in front of you is really fantastic.
The first fully animated cartoon was made back in 1906. It was called Humorous Phases of Funny Faces. Let's check it out. In Gertie the Dinosaur, every single frame was drawn and redrawn using tracing paper. This took quite a lot of time. Because this took so long, this led to cell animation, where there is a solid background and characters are drawn and placed in different parts. In 1915, a technique called rotoscoping was introduced. Rotoscoping is tracing a moving image to make it look more fluid and more natural. It was used in Snow White. For the next 70 years, the only form of animation was 2D animation, until 1995, Pixar released Toy Story, which was the very first 3D animated movie. Let's check it out.
Sergeant?
Yes, sir.
Establish a recon post downstairs.
Code Red, repeat. We are at Code Red. Recon Plan Charlie, execute. Move, 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 move! It's a big one.
Walt Disney Pictures presents a totally new animated motion picture event.
Star Command, come in. Do you read me?
After the huge success of Toy Story, Pixar slowly became a giant in the industry for making 3D animation and therefore pushing at 2D animation, even though 2D animation was still created. The last mainstream, fully hand-drawn animation was Winnie the Pooh back in 2011, while Frozen ranks 13th highest grossing movie of all time. 3D animation is now the norm. 2D and 3D animation share the same types of principles of animation. For example, in Avatar, rotoscoping was used to create the movement of the actor. 2D and 3D animation also uses keyframes and is also used in claymation. In 2D animation, there are usually 12 to 13 keyframes per second. 3D animation, because of how smooth and fluid it is, can have up to 60 frames per second, while the animator only has to create 10 or 12. This does not make 3D animation faster or easier than 2D animation. 2D animation takes just as much time as 3D animation. It takes more computers for the animators to code and create models. When creating a 2D animation, it is much easier for the animator to correct a problem because all they need to do is just draw it. If SpongeBob is missing an arm, all they need to do is just draw it. It is much easier for 2D animators to create transformation sequences because all they need to do is just draw it. But in 3D animation, transformation models need to be created for each and every step, and this takes a lot of time. Let's take a look at this transformation sequence. This frame right here is one model. Adding the right arm is a second model, and adding the left arm is a third model, and finally, the final transformation is a fourth model. 4 models for one transformation. To help me explain this in more detail, I'm going to leave it to the experts. Here is an intro to the Pixar story, which helps explain how animation got started.
John Henry's Dave.
That was the wabbit. 15 puppies.
To infinity and beyond! For the last 20 years, a group of artists and scientists have transformed two-dimensional drawings into their own three-dimensional worlds.
Syndrome!
Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming.
Ride like the wind, Bullseye!
The art challenges technology. Technology inspires the art.
The best scientists and engineers are just as creative as the best storytellers.
We've got characters that we want to come alive.
Transforming the hand-drawn line into a new art form was no easy task. Over the last 20 years, these artists faced struggles and the risk of failure every step of the way. This marriage of art and science was the combined dream of 3 men: a creative scientist, Ed Catmull, a visionary entrepreneur, Steve Jobs, and a talented artist, John Lasseter. Together, they have revolutionized an industry and blazed an unprecedented record in Hollywood history. This is the Pixar story.
Through the evolution of using computers, while animating. It has really changed the way the industry creates. Now the industry requires math and science. So now it's your turn to animate from home.